Hello and welcome. My name is Paul Cross. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the former co-chair of the World Tote Association, and I'll be your moderator. Now, is it today, this morning, tonight? I guess it depends wherever you are around the world. Big shout out to those who are joining us from the US and Canada in the early hours of Tuesday. One of the functions of the World Tote Association is to provide forums where members can exchange ideas. And this is one of those opportunities where members can exchange those very ideas. Welcome to the first of a two-part series on the new Tote. What does innovation in pool betting look like? Luckily, we've got three great speakers tonight. Tag team duo from Tote, Keith Seeley and Ryan Serson, and from Britbet, Stephen Johnson. Now, Stephen is the commercial director at Britbet, whilst Keith Seeley is the senior account manager from Tote, and Ryan Serson is the product owner. We know your time's pretty precious, so thank you very much on behalf of the World Tote Association for taking the time. I'm sure there'll be some valuable insights about what different operators are doing. We'll make sure, given the time constraints, we keep this to no more than 1 hour. Your diary is very busy. During the presentation, please put questions in the chat room, and we will answer those questions or attempt to answer those questions at the end of all the presentations. Now, Tote, totalisator, parimutuel or pool betting are common to describe the same thing. Whilst the betting process for customers or punters is similar for all totes across the globe, role, importance, and size varies so much across the globe. Tote betting remains strong in Japan and Hong Kong, for example. It faces challenges in Australia which are being addressed with the growing popularity of fixed odds betting. In some markets, simple bet types are more common for punters. In other markets, punters prefer more exotic bet. The biggest development we've seen in recent years has been the creation by the Hong Kong Jockey Club of the World Tour. Not only for punters worldwide to access very liquid pools, but also the racing industry, which receives revenue from World Tour conducted on its races. Now, if Hong Kong can do it, why can't we bring all pools on a race into one global, every race, every day? I know it's easier said than done, but it's important we keep challenging how we provide tote betting to customers across the globe. It's also good to challenge the traditional elements of tote betting. For example, why do we wait until the all clear or correct weight is given in a race to pay dividends? And why can't we pay as soon as the runners finish across the line 1, 2, 3, in some cases 4? Why do we only run one pool for each bet type per race? If we've got very good liquidity, why couldn't we run more than one win pool on one particular race? Why do we update pool totals every 30 seconds or so? Why not live? How can we use AI to provide dynamic rather than static tipping to customers? There are 1,000 ideas out there, and tonight we're going to hear from a few speakers about what they're doing for their organisations. Hopefully, our speakers over part 1 and part 2 of these Tote Innovation webinars will give you something to think about for your organisation. Our first speaker tonight is Stephen Johnson from Britbet, and over to Stephen for his presentation.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I'll just share the slides. Welcome, everyone. Okay, hopefully that's coming through fine.
Yes, all clear.
Good. Okay. So just a quick introduction then to who Britbet are and how we fit into the UK horse racing industry, because it's a little bit complicated for some perhaps. So we are owned by the majority of British racecourses, set up in 2018. And the main purpose of Britbet is to provide customer-facing pool betting services on those racecourses, which we do on 56 of the 59 tracks in Britain, with the bets then flowing through into the UK Tote as the host pool. We do also provide other services to racecourses as our partners, such as we host pools on British Greyhound racing on a number of tracks. So just to explain a little bit more about how this actually works on a race course, if you look at the graphic there in the middle, we've got the race goers, and there's a picture of one off to the right, placing bets, and they place them via Britbet. We take bets as an agent and we pass them into the UK Tote as the host pool. So in that picture there, the guys at the counter is owned by the race course, which allows us to operate from that. And then that's a Britbet staff member, Britbet screens, and the guy is using Britbet hardware and software to place that bet through and into the UK Totes pool. And we look after the marketing and the compliance aspects. And in 2024, just to put it in context, we worked across 56 race courses, 1,358 fixtures, over 73 million in turnover, with average bet size just over £10. So just to give you an idea, so lots of recreational customers, mainly placing win and each way bets are the most popular in the UK marketplace. To Paul's point there earlier, different markets have different things. We have some multi-leg bets. We have obviously the forecast bets like exacta trifecta as well, but winning each way would be the core of the bets that come through. Again, just a bit of background setting on the British market. So in the on-course environment, we do have pool betting at pretty much every course. I think we do have it at every course. And that's via fixed positions like in the picture that was on the last slide. And also we have roaming couriers which can walk around and take bets, particularly in hospitality areas, which are very effective on those days. We compete mainly with the traditional on-course bookmakers, which there's a large picture there of a very, very busy betting ring somewhere. And this is fixed odds, and they will compete on price, and they're still pretty popular in the UK. So very traditional, and it's customary to offer those in the UK. And then online, obviously, is another piece we're competing with, where people are betting on their mobile phones with a number of operators. And if I flick to the next screen, this gives you an idea of the UK market. This is a screen grab from a site called Odds Checker, and this contains some, not all, of the online operators in the market. And as you can see, people can hunt around for different prices, both mainly sports books or fixed odds betting. There's also betting exchanges as well. It's an ultra competitive, well-established market, so dominated by fixed odds. And just to call out to the football betting, like in most jurisdictions and other sports, is growing in popularity. So we're also kind of competing with that as well. So moving on to the topic of innovation. So we've launched in 2018 and we've worked on various projects, obviously with UK Tote, who we work very closely with as our host pool partner, and who many of you will be aware of as a specialist pool betting software company as our software partner. So we're going to talk about three things that we've done in recent years. We're going to talk about Lucky Pick, Tote Guarantee, and multiples. So just to tee those up. So Lucky Pick is a smart algorithm. It's a bit like the Lucky Dip on the lottery, but it's a bit smarter than that. So rather than being completely random, we use an algorithm to pick bets for the customers, which I'll explain more shortly. We're going to talk about Tote Guarantee, which is a price promo and a price promise on win bets. And we're going to talk about multiples, where we've created technology enabling doubles and trebles with money moving from pool to pool. So we'll go through those each in turn. And just to call out that note at the bottom there, these are all features or promotions, not a new bet type. Often on these sessions over the years that we've all sat on, there's lots of talk about what's the next bet type. We have to find the next super bet. And as you'll see here, actually we haven't. We've tried here to try and do other things through features or promotions. They're actually tackling sort of customer experience issues or improving the customer experience. So we shall move on and talk through each one. So first up is Lucky Pick. So we launched this in 2019 and it works on any bet type, including multi-legs. And so rather than being a completely random pick when we're picking bets, we use a weighted algorithm. So it gives more chance of picking a fancied runner. So for example, if there was a 100-to-1 shot in a race, that horse might be picked 1% of the time. If there was a 2-to-1 shot, it would be picked roughly 33% of the time, and so on and so forth. And that applies both to single leg and multi-leg, that principle in terms of picking them. But then the algorithm is randomized to pick the bets and weight them accordingly. We also sell wallets, and this picture here is an example of the front and the back of a wallet. It's literally a cardboard wallet, and we may print off 6 or 7 bets at the start of the day, push them inside the wallets, and we'll have roaming sellers going around selling those for £10 or typically £20 for a bunch of bets. This has been really popular, great fun, and also introduces customers to new bet types, because we can put a variety of bets in there, which we do, as you can see on the back of the wallet there, which now includes multiples as well, to introduce them to those different bet types that they wouldn't ordinarily do if they're just betting win and each way throughout the day. Just a quick shout out to some of the big wins we've had, just to see how well it's done. So over the years, we've the place pot, as you'll see, is a very popular multi-leg bet in the UK, and all these bets relate to the place pot, which has big pools, sometimes £1 million plus pools. And we've had some big 5-figure payouts from very, very small stakes, as you can see. And one of the things we've done, as well as making it smart in terms of the picking the horses, we've also not just done straight line bets, which often, whilst they can win big, are obviously very hard to win with. So we do use perms as well. So we typically will have a couple of horses in 2 or 3 races, just to give people a greater chance of winning and getting through. And that's worked well for us on those tough days when your results are unusual. You need 1 or 2 more selections to get through. And we've also had big wins, large 4-figure wins on other bets, exacta, trifecta, doubles and trebles, etc. And these are literally on a weekly basis. We're having these sort of payouts, which is great for the customers. As a result of the big wins, have been very popular both with our staff selling them and customers on course. So this chart shows the turnover as a percentage of overall on-course turnover. And as you can see, it's just been relentless and steady progress for the last few years. And we're now up to about 5% of our overall on-course turnover comes from the Lucky Pick product, with customers literally asking for them, as well as our roaming sellers going out and selling them. We get people coming up to the counter all the time and asking for the £20 wallet or a Lucky Pick on the next race, which is great. One last thing we've done recently is called Scan Your Bet. So we have some functionality now where if you get your mobile phone out and pull the camera out and scan the QR code on the bottom of your betting ticket, as in the example there, it will then instantly put up information about your horse in terms of the stake, the bet type, the colours. You can click through and find out a little bit of form if you want to. So it's giving you information about the horse, and also after the race, it will helpfully tell people whether they've won or lost their bet. And we think this is useful, particularly for those Lucky Pick things. It ties in well from an education point of view. So if you're selling someone a bundle of 6 or 7 bets and it's the first time they've been to the racing, this is helpful to then explain what a trifecta is and how you win it, for example. So hopefully it helps with the overall race car experience. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Tote Guarantee. Obviously, we work very closely with UK Tote on this, and we've been running this for a few years. It's both online on the Tote's website and app, as well as on Racecourse. And it's a price promise or price guarantee. In the UK market, we have something called the starting price, which the bookmakers set at the off of each race, which if you haven't already taken a price, then that's the price that you'll end up getting. So it's sort of a market closing price kind of thing. So the offer here is basically to give the best of both. So you're either getting the starting price or you're getting the Tote win price, whichever the best is. And it's just underlying that value message so that we're not disappointing people when they've had a bet. So to use an example here of how it works. So we've just recently had a very big festival called the Cheltenham Festival in the UK. And here's 2 winners of 2 of the big races. So the Cheltenham Gold Cup's probably the biggest race of the week. That was won by a horse called I Know the Way You're Thinking. And the Tote win on that returned £8.10 was the dividend on Tote win. The bookmaker SP was £8.50. So in that case, we had to top up the price to make sure that customers got £8.50. So we paid 40p top up in the pounds, basically, for every pound bet. An extra 40p we paid, which obviously eats into the margin, which we'll come on to. But the punter's getting that reassurance that they're getting no worse than the bookmaker SP. And the bookmaker SP would be very close to the betting ring and those prices that people are taking 5 minutes before the off. So we think it's a pretty fair value offer. And then they also get the upside if Tote win beats the SP, which exactly happened in the other big race, the Champion Hurdle, won by an outsider called Golden Ace. The Tote win was a great price, 36.80 compared to the bookmakers 25-1 or 26 in decimals. So, an extra £10.80 the customer is getting compared to what they would have got with the bookmakers. So the phrase we use sometimes is get the best of both. And hopefully that's got through to punters, which I'm sure it has. So just a bit on that uplift. So we launched it on course in November 2021. It's also available on Tote website and app, which has helped. We've been pushing it across both channels. and it's a positive price message. So hopefully it does appeal to those price conscious punters, and maybe people now are less likely to wander into the betting ring because they've got this comfort of getting a similar price and maybe getting better. And I think also it's almost subconsciously probably helped with punters who maybe haven't even really understood it or got it. It's just removed that negative experience. So in the past, you may have had a bet and the tote odds just turned out to be not so great. And then your mates had a bet in the betting ring and they've got 3-1 and you've got 2-1, and there's that disappointment moment. We've removed that disappointing or negative experience so that people now betting with a tote, winning each way, are having good experiences all the time, and hopefully then keep betting throughout the day. And that's borne out by the numbers. So we've basically seen an increase in our win turnover on course of around 30%. So the chart to the right there shows the Cheltenham Festival, which is the last 10-year trend. And so we introduced in November 2021, and you see the jump up. It's going up to, when we had a record ever Cheltenham Festival this year, over many years, 11.3 million of turnover, which is a jump up from the sort of the roughly 9 million prior to launching Tote Guarantee. So it's had a big uplift on turnover. And today we've actually paid out 13 million extra to customers on race courses alone. I'm sure online they paid even more, as a bigger chunky number, but just on race courses, another 30 million has gone back into punters' pockets, which obviously helps with churn. It means they're going to be having hopefully more bets with that extra money back in the pocket. And also for our race course punters, it means maybe they spend more on food and drink and that type of thing on their race day. Margin's always the big question here. It all sounds very good, but what about margin? So we'll address that too. So in the UK tote, the takeout is 19.25%. With Tote Guarantee top-up payments, promo payments, effectively it runs somewhere between 11-12% over time. There's obviously volatility depending on results. And if you looked on a meeting basis or daily basis, you might start pulling your hair out because there is volatility. But luckily, from an on-course perspective, we have those 56 tracks. We can spread the risk across all 56 and effectively blend the net margin, which makes everyone more relaxed about where we end up. So the chart at the bottom shows sort of how it runs over a monthly basis, and as you see, it's pretty close to 15%, but it might be in the range of sort of 14 to 16%, and that's across all products blended in with win as well as all the other bet types in there. But as you can see, win is a big chunk of what we do on course. And over a full year, that volatility we've been operating for a few years now is very close to 15%. So on a full year basis, it becomes quite predictable, and you can ride out any sort of bumps as you go along the road. Okay, so moving on to the last topic is multiples. So again, very popular, this bet with fixed odds bookmakers. So again, we were trying to fill a need and fill a customer experience gap here. So we're working with our software partner, Inida. We built a multiples product, which allows people to now place doubles and trebles, which typically the type of thing that younger males are placing on footballs on a weekend, ACCA type bets. And you can do this on any UK or Irish races, as long as the races are at the same meeting. And you can do this for win, place, or effectively each way if you want to. So how does this work? So just to be super clear, it's not a double or treble pool. So it's not just one pool like that's been offered in the past. I know that the World Pool, for example, have a double and a treble pool, and they fix the races and there's one takeout and there's one pool. It's not that. What we've done here is we're moving the money from pool to pool. So win pool to win pool. So we've got a work example here on a £10 win treble across 3 races. So a guy walks up and has £10 win on the first race. Horse is 2-1. It wins, luckily, which returns him £30. Then we then, through the technology, effectively move that £30 into the second race win pool. So £30 then gets placed by us into the second race win pool. If that then wins at 3-1 in this example, returns £120, and then again we take that £120 and we move it into the win pool on race 3. So eventually the customer may end up, if it's 4-1 in this case, if it wins, they could win or return £600 for their £10 stake. And then crucially, from a margin point of view, is that here in this example we're taking takeout each time we put the money into the new pool. And in this example, the customer staked £10, but actually we put £160 into 3 separate pools, generating takeout. So we launched this on course just over a year ago in January 2024. In that first year, we had over 2.2 million in turnover, which equated to about 4% of our overall turnover. So So it's a fairly steady start, and we tend to find things when we launch in a retail on-course environment that they tend to be slow burn and then they take off in years 2 and 3. It's exactly what happened with Tote Guarantee and certainly with Lucky Pick. Things tend to grow. So it's a nice start, and hopefully we can kick on. Margin is good, as I mentioned earlier, particularly when you compare to the initial stake with the takeout applied per leg. There's a little chart here just showing the breakdown of by bet type. You'll see quite a lot of bets here. Win doubles, win trebles are popular, and also the each way doubles and trebles, because we put them in the Lucky Pick wallets, and that boosts the sales of those as well. But we also have people walking up and choosing their own of those bets. And this product is also available on UK Tote website and app, and they've gone even beyond the doubles and trebles, which we find it sort of works for us on course, but are all doing all sorts of accumulators, which someone from Tote may want to chip in on later. That you can do 4, 5, 6, and upwards of all sorts of accumulators now through the multiples technology, done in exactly the same way, I believe. So just moving on to future ideas. So we fixed a few customer experience needs in terms of solving the value problem for win. We've solved the gap on multiples betting. We've introduced a fun new thing on Lucky Pick. We think a future opportunity for UK racecourse and UK market generally is around place betting. And there's a few reasons for this. We've been doing surveys on course, customer surveys, and when we've suggested enhanced place terms, it's scored really highly, in fact, higher than the likes of Tote Guarantee and Tote Multiples. So we think that there's customer appetite for this. And in Britain, really, pool betting place terms haven't changed for many years. They mirror the standard fixed odds rules, where it's 2, 3, or 4 places, depending on the race type and the number of actual runners. But actually, the UK off-course market and exchange market has moved on. They've realised that this was too static, too dull, and actually they now give a lot more choice. So the bottom left-hand corner there is, again, that odds checker grid, and this is showing the each way terms on a race. And this is very typical, day-to-day, race-to-race, where you can take your pick of, a fifth the odds, a quarter the odds, first 3, first 4, first 5. There's variety, and they're all offering different terms for their each way betting. The piece on the right is Bet365. I took this yesterday, where again you can choose whichever horse you want, and you can bet for 2 places, 3 places, 4 places, etc. And the little graphic at the bottom, I think, is from a betting exchange, which again is sort of giving that variety. So there's more choice and more variety in this area elsewhere, and I think we need to catch up. And we obviously are thinking about this and very much talking to UK Tote, who I know have got lots of ideas in this area as well, which maybe they can chip in on shortly. So just a few considerations here if we're looking at place betting. And there's lots of considerations, but here's just a few to start thinking about. One is the increased churn that you get. And we see this from Tote Guarantee. By putting more money back in people's pockets, they then bet more throughout the day. And we think that by paying more places, we're going to give more customers a winning experience, return more money to punters overall, and therefore the turnover should be helped by that. So we think that's a good thing. How many place markets do you have? Obviously, the US markets, for example, as Win Place show, it already has effectively those first 3 markets, which is great. It gives customers choice. But a couple of other considerations to play devil's advocate is that it does split liquidity. So it depends how much liquidity you've got. Does it feel right to have place markets all aggregated in one, or should it be split across 2 or 3? And for us, things like confusion could arise. So each way betting is very popular on course for us. If we have multiple place markets, we need to be super clear which place market or what place terms are applying to each way bets, which will be solvable, but it needs consideration if we've got more than one, just to be clear and transparent. Fixed or changeable place terms basically is around in the UK market traditionally. They are changeable, so it depends on the actual runners in a race. So if we have an 8-runner race and at the last minute there's a withdrawal, a horse doesn't go into the stalls, goes down to 7 runners, and then it goes down from 3 places to 2 places. So we're sort of changing the fundamental terms of that place bet at the last minute. It's part of the rules, so customers are aware that can happen, but it can add to disappointment, and we get customers sometimes coming up to our windows and typically their horses come third, and then they'll be complaining that why did they not get paid out, and they're confused. They've not been racing that many times as to how that works. Other jurisdictions and fixed odds and exchanges do it differently, where it's fixed. It can either be done on the declared runners, or you're just the market that you're betting into is just 3 to be placed. Then they might adjust the odds if there's a non-runner, but it's clear. And the last consideration is actually just an interesting one around takeout. There's been some discussion as to if you were to play more places, let's say on the Grand National, you could play 8 places, 10 places, you could go crazy. But actually, the odds obviously get worse and worse the more places you pay. Would you do anything with the takeout rate to lower that to improve the odds? And obviously there's pros and cons to doing that, but I just thought I'd throw that one in as well. So that concludes my run through on a few things that we've done over the last few years and one thing that we're starting to look at. So back to you, Paul.
Thanks, Stephen. That's great. And don't forget for the participants, if you have a question, don't forget to put it in and ask that question, and we'll attempt to answer those questions at the end of the next presentation. So over to Keith and Ryan from Tote for their presentation.
Thanks, Paul. There you go. Okay. Hello, my name is Keith Seeley. I'm the Senior Account Manager at First Technology. And today we're going to talk about how we're adapting parimutuel pool betting with various sports event offerings. We'll be using this technology with our recently announced NASCAR project with the end goal to offer complex pick types with minimal risk, something that fixed odds often struggles with. But I'll start by talking about who we are and what our organization does. Okay, so we are First Technology, a technology company composed of a few different strategically acquired organizations, each bringing their own expertise in parimutuel wagering, which helps strengthen the broader group. Start with FirstBet. FirstBet's our primary online wagering platform and mobile application. It's the app that you'll see in the App Store if you look up FirstBet on Android or Apple. ExpressBet develops and manages our front-end ADW, advanced deposit wagering technology, including the first mobile app. They specialize in customer-facing UIs. They handle our B2C support and a lot of our marketing. But the ExpressBet group is pivotal in launching new products and features. We've got our BetMix group. So BetMix is a data hub. They use historical racing data algorithms to build handicapping tools and models, which online bettors can use for free on the First app. This allows you to do things like pick your top factors, whether it's how well they run on turf, or maybe you rely on jockey and trainer statistics. That's all available on our app. But that is old technology. It's not what we're here to talk about today. Next company would be Tote. That's where Ryan and I, who you'll be hearing from shortly, cut our teeth. That's the back-end technology which facilitates pool betting, delivers the odds, pools, commingles the money, creates the dividends, supports the terminals, external APIs, and I'll expand a bit on that in a moment. We've got Paramax, our historical horse racing gaming company. Another interesting pool betting product, which I won't be talking about today, but they are our gaming machines, which operate under parimutuel betting rules, which we have in a few states in North America. And then we've got XBNet, which some may have heard of. XBNet offers a plug-and-play API solution called EasyGate, and also helps manage our fixed odds trading management group. XBNet's been pivotal in launching our fixed odds solution, which, by the way, runs on the same back-end system of record, meaning the punter could use the same account for fixed odds betting or parimutuel, but again, that's not what we're talking about today. So what do we do? I probably just covered a lot of this, but we offer parimutuel, fixed odds, and gaming solutions. First Technology supports a variety of self-serve and teller-based terminals. It also offers tellerless cashing stations at some locations with ATM functionalities. We offer APIs supporting a variety of tote-related transactions, essentially everything required to support an account or cash wagering business into parimutuel pools. We also own and operate several tracks with the help of Monarch Management Group, most notably Santa Anita and Gulfstream in North America. We hosted the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar last year and will again this November. Our main office is headquartered in Hunt Valley, Maryland, just down the road from me. but we also have corporate offices just north of Miami in Hallandale, Florida at Gulfstream Park. We do have Tote systems operating in a few different regions around the world. And I don't think that map is up to date, but we have systems in the US, Canada, Isle of Man, South Africa, Mauritius, Uruguay, Australia, Trinidad, and we most recently installed a system in Turkey with the Turkish Jockey Club. So our current software stack is called Spectrum. It's a tried and true wagering platform that's been online for 30 plus years, but it's definitely run its course and is currently our legacy platform, though it's still in use in all the countries I just mentioned. The Spectrum backend was developed in C# and has been benchmarked at accepting up to 70,000 bets per second. And that's from the backend level. It supports over 2 million customer accounts per hub and can handle up to 20,000 terminals concurrently. I spoke about its reliability. It's had a consistent 99.9% uptime, and we've managed to trim the system downtime for the day and procedure down to just a few minutes a day. Spectrum supports 60 plus runners, 100 plus programs per customer. The number of runners specifically ties into sports, as we found, especially in NASCAR, that sports offerings needs the flexibility to offer more entries than we might typically see in a race with a large field. Like an Ascot or this weekend's Kentucky Derby, for example. But supporting over 60 runners allows us to broaden the scope of bet types we're able to offer in sports offerings. The Tote is currency agnostic and supports all ITSP and most bet-by-bet protocols, at least the ones that our customers have been interested in. So because Spectrum is old and legacy, we're developing a new platform some may have heard of called Prism. Prism is a more modern service stack which uses more up-to-date technology, such as some of the microservices you'll see listed to the right there. Containerization and cloud-native technologies, which ensures extensibility. Spectrum works and functions in cloud environments, but Prism is built to scale with cloud infrastructure to accommodate the nature of whatever business you bring to us. We are building Prism with language support in mind, such that it can be a true international product, and we are putting a heavy emphasis on the user experience. It's going to offer increased wagering data, transparency, and latency, which Ryan will talk about in a moment. And Prism is going to offer both RESTful JSON and gRPC endpoints, which should facilitate a simple third-party integration experience. It'll also allow us to build and release features at a much faster pace than we're currently doing with Spectrum. And as I mentioned, the B2B experience is pivotal in our development. So we want to make sure it's as easy as possible for clients to create and offer their own markets to their own customers, which is something that we're putting a lot of emphasis on with sports offerings. So I've told you who we are and what we do in our technology. I will hand it over to Ryan to talk about what we're seeing in pool betting in sports and how we plan to introduce it into our latest technology. Ryan?
Great, thank you, Keith. So yeah, as Keith mentioned, we are actively working on modernizing the Tote on a new technology stack and architecture. Very excited to begin bringing that to market in the near future. And as we've been going through that rebuild process, we've been looking for new areas where we can attempt to leverage that new technology, one of which has been the idea of parimutuel sports betting, which anyone stateside knows there has been an absolute explosion of sports betting in the last 5-7 years or so, since it was legalized in North America. Handle growing year over year with no real signs of slowing down. And we know that the current landscape for this is really dominated by fixed odds betting. It's almost synonymous, sports betting and fixed odds. But we think there is a real opportunity for parimutuel wagering to gain a foothold. It has some obvious benefits to both the punters and the operators, which will probably be obvious to most of the people in this audience, maybe not so much the betting public and the different sports operators themselves. And as Keith mentioned at the top, in the last couple of months, we've announced officially a partnership between First and NASCAR to offer parimutuel wagering on auto racing, which we are very excited about in the near future as well. So some of those benefits to go over quickly, basically being able to offer a variety of different bet types, from simple exotic to progressive jackpot bets. Those mean that the public can make small wagers that can lead to bigger wins, especially on some of those jackpot type wagers, without the risk and liability that a fixed odds operator has to deal with. We can increase our engagement with existing customers with things like in-event betting, contests and tournaments, and by in-event, basically in running markets, whereas a normal horse race is maybe a 2-minute window, a NASCAR race, a PGA Tour event, events like that can take several hours. So there's opportunities throughout the day to kind of spin up different market types at will. Maybe a new win market at lap 50 of the race to see who's leading at lap 70, things like that, to maybe increase some churn and keep people engaged. There's value add for operators, obviously, being able to introduce all these dynamic new markets without the risk management, fixed odds trading, both the manual overhead of that and the liability. I believe the economics are more favorable, where a straight fixed odds market is typically 6 or 7% revenue for the house. Pari-mutuel market can be 25% give or take, depending on where we want to set the takeout rate and whatever distributions we need to make from that. And finally, pari-mutuel is really designed for volatile events with many participants. If you think again, something like a NASCAR race, a PGA event, a tennis major, things with a very large field, dozens and dozens of participants. Fixed odds can struggle to manage profitable lines on all those participants, whereas pari-mutuel really shines at its best with large field sizes, as we know. So as we begin exploring more of the pari-mutuel sports betting world, there'll be a lot of new innovations in wagering formats and market types. This table is just a sample of some of the things we've been kicking around for NASCAR. How much of this will bring to market and how much we won't remains to be seen, but things like traditional win, place, and show, both on the final race order itself, as well as being able to bet on the different NASCAR teams. We could bet on manufacturers, a bunch of different varieties of win and place and show betting. Top end finishers, again, with 40 cars in the field, there's really no need for the place pool to only pay out 3 or 4 positions. Why not bet on the top 5, top 10, top 15 as far as you want to go? Pick ends we can use parlays, traditional pick ends, or position X. So things like a double trio, a triple trio, a quad quartet, why not? And then exchange head-to-head, over-under, things that are more traditional fixed odds markets. We can recreate those in a pari-mutuel environment. Also some things not necessarily called out here, like perhaps the 2 sur 4 in France, where it's picking 2 of the top 4 finishers, 3 of the top 5. Just a bunch of different examples of things we are kicking around at the moment. And obviously some of these ideas may lend themselves well to NASCAR, but not necessarily another sport or vice versa. So as we explore this space more and look at more partnerships, there'll be a number of different wagering structures and market types that we want to innovate with. And that's really going to lead to a trial and error approach where we don't necessarily know what the public's going to want to bet on. We might end up throwing a lot of things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And as we kind of go through that trial and error approach, we kind of really need to rethink our traditional model of bringing new bet types or market types to market. Anyone who has tried to bring a new bet type into the horse racing world in the last few years probably knows that is a long timeline with a high cost. There's complex development both on the back end, price rules configuration, supporting the bet through multiple wagering channels, whether it's brick and mortar terminals or retail online ADW, support through the ITSP network. All those end up being barriers to innovation and a risk because it can be difficult to invest weeks or months into new development only to find that the public doesn't really take to that bet type, and maybe you have to go back to the drawing board. So in Prism, we're focusing on a faster path forward with the focus on more rapid delivery and streamlined implementation, simplifying the pricing configurations. These rule sets, as we probably well know, can be very complicated with a number of different options around progressive jackpots, carryovers, consolation payouts, how to handle early, late scratches, surface changes, the list goes on and on. We want to kind of streamline those options and distill them to something where an operator themselves can interact with the system through a UI UX. Basically go in and create a new market type, twist the dials and knobs that they want, and get that set up for wagering right away. Instead of looking at weeks and months of turnaround time, we're hoping for focus on days or maybe even hours. Finally, shifting gears a little bit, another major focus of the new Prism architecture is a reduced latency of pool updates. Basically, wanting to make sure we get faster information available for the betting public, specifically odds updates. We know this has been a major pain point in the racing industry for some time now. We've taken multiple steps to try to mitigate that as best we can. One of the things we are doing in Prism now is providing current odds and near real-time updates, whether it's every second or at every bet. Instead of waiting for the traditional 30 to 45-second network updates. So we will leverage local wagering activity to provide more frequent odds calculations based on local handle, and then supplement those with the ITSP updates as they come in. And then over time, maybe as industry moves towards bet-by-bet protocols or more liquidity goes into the Prism system itself, those more frequent odds calculations will get more and more accurate and be a better representation of the overall network picture. And that is what we had to share for today. Look forward to continuing development and bringing some of these features and ideas to market in the near future.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Keith. Now, we've got a few questions appearing in the forum. So first question for you, Ryan and Keith, coming through. You see any, on the sports betting side, have you seen any demands by operators across the globe for sports betting products? Is it increasing in demand? Is one of the questions that's come through.
Increasing from a fixed odds perspective, sure.
No, pari-mutuel.
From a pari-mutuel perspective,
yeah.
I think there's a lot of conversations ongoing. Obviously, we've signed a deal with NASCAR that was announced a couple months ago, and we're looking at other opportunities as well. I think that's a space that is going to grow probably in the next couple of years, and we're hoping the pari-mutuel can be a bigger and bigger part of that.
Yeah, our South African customer has offered soccer pools, football pools for many years. So it's always been a topic that's come up. If there's any new development that we're doing, and they're certainly interested, and a lot of other markets are interested as well.
And the next question coming through on the forum, in terms of racing, how do you see changes in demand for different bet types across the globe? Is there wide variations for demand for different pool bet types for racing?
It's really whatever people could come up with. The demand, yes, there is demand for new bet types. I think people are struggling to define what those bet types are, but certainly offering new products through new bet types has been a frequent request. But yeah, like Ryan mentioned, it's tough to develop because it's an international protocol, and every tote vendor needs to be prepared for it as well. So this is kind of a way that we're able to internally build new bet types and support them on our own system. And if there's ITSP partners that are interested, that's great.
Cool. Thanks, Keith. Question for you that's come through for Stephen. A question on the tote pool guarantee. Does it cover all thoroughbred racing in the UK, or does it also cover international?
Well, on race courses, we just offer currently UK and Irish horse racing, and we do apply it to both. So if you bet onto an Irish race, you also get the guarantee against the SP. I'm not sure how it would work with international because there isn't necessarily a starting price for French racing or US racing or that type of thing. So it's maybe something that's more unique to UK and Irish racing.
Cool. Second question in relation to the margin. You did talk about, I know I saw discussion about the margin, the cost of the margin for the guarantee for Tote. A question has come through. Could you just elaborate on that cost a little bit more?
Well, yeah, sure. So just I can reiterate what I said. So the win takeout was is 19.25% on win. Obviously, some races you'll end up paying out more because you've got to top up to pay the SP. So the effect of that is that the effective win margin really runs at more like 11 or 12%. So if you're offering this, then you assume that your win is, rather than getting 19.2, you're going to get about 11 to 12% on your win margin. Yeah, so that's basically the impact on margin. So therefore, you need that uplift in turnover, which say we've seen roughly about a 30% uplift in win. And the two things kind of net themselves out. So you end up, yes, you are having a lower margin, but your turnover's gone up, and you end up in a similar place. And we think we're in a slightly better place. And also, customers are having a better experience, which is good for our race courses and race course partners. And UK Tote, I'm sure, feel the same way about online. They're having better customer experience with their customers online. So overall, it's a win, we believe.
That's great. That's fantastic. And again, another question coming through on the lucky pick. The actual selections are done at the time the bet is struck. The question coming through is, do you ever see the day that it can be dynamic, where a bet is placed on a digital platform, given the volume money that comes in at the end or towards the start of the event?
Yeah, no, great question. So we a lot of those bets that we're selling, particularly the £20 wallets that we're selling, they might be printed, say, 2 hours before the first race. So we're using an odds line that's then. So you're absolutely right that the odds line isn't perfect. It's pretty well established in the UK, so it's good enough to use, and it does work. But you're absolutely right. If you walked up to a window a minute out and asked for a lucky pick, or did it online, and that they then use the odds at that point in time, then the lucky pick should get even more efficient for people betting very, very late. So yeah, that could work. So for us, it's more about selling bets far in advance, and it works well enough for now. But it would get slightly more efficient and slightly better, I think, if you did it late on.
Yeah, I think that's why some customers wait to the death before perhaps having the lucky pick.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Cool. Now, the only other question coming through that I can see that Florence is going to answer a question about the presentations. Okay, we'll come to that, but the question related to where the presentations would be available. Presentations at some point. There are no other questions in the forum, so I think we're going to be able to.
Having trouble hearing you, Paul.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay, so that's all the questions we've got in our forum. Thank you to Stephen, to Ryan, and to Keith for your presentations. I'm sure participants will take a bit of knowledge away with them following today's webinar. Don't forget, for the people who are listening today or watching today, that this is part 1 of the Tote Innovation webinar. There will be a part 2 coming up shortly, and you'll be receiving an email in the not too distant future about when that will occur. So thank you to the presenters, and thank you for joining us this evening. Goodbye for now.